Welcome back to Tired as a Mother, your realistic guide on sleep training your baby successfully. So let's begin, mamas. Are you ready for today? Let's jump right into Module 2, Rockabye Baby. We talked a little bit about this in Module 1. A baby should be put down to sleep while still awake. This is the key to an independent sleeper. You need to learn your baby's cues. Most babies rub their eyes, pull on their ears. Sometimes they get more snuggly. Sometimes, if you are training your baby right, they actually get more like, get away from me and please put me in my crib by myself, making them a little extra cranky and trying to get away from you. So your goal is to make a routine that works for you. Give them the cues that they need to know that it's time for bed. With this, we're talking about your nighttime routine, but same can be applied when it comes to their naps. It's still sleeping, even though it maybe isn't the nighttime routine. So for nighttime routines, make a warm bath, get cozy PJs, a nighttime essential oil maybe rubbed on their feet or diffused. There's some good oil combinations out there that are good for babies. You just want to make sure that they are diluted in another oil. You don't want to use them too strong on a baby. Read a book, pray with them, sing a special nighttime song to them. Some people have music that they play at night for their baby. I think all of these are great cues for your baby that, guess what? This is nighttime. You are warm, you are fed, you are in a clean diaper, and it's time to go to bed. So for my newborns, I swaddled them, and as they got older, they transitioned out of that. So going to swaddles, to swaddle or not to swaddle, that is the question. I swaddled all of my babies until they were a couple months old and basically getting out of the swaddling themselves. I have a niece who loved to be swaddled, and she was almost like 1 or 2. Like, she just loved being wrapped up tight. So every baby is different, but I do strongly believe that in the beginning, at least the first month, they should be swaddled. All newborns have a startle reflex that's called the Moro reflex. And this is that if you're ever watching your baby sleep, where they jolt, their hands go flying up. That's this reflex. And they're asleep in that jolt. When their hands are not swaddled down or their arms aren't swaddled down, that jolt really can be disturbing to them, and they usually hit themselves in the face, waking them up. If they are swaddled, which is mimicking the womb, I mean, think back to that. They did not have much room in there. When they jolt, it's just more contained in that swaddle. So swaddling tightly will help them not to startle themselves awake when this reflex happens. By 5 to 6 months, this reflex has gone away, and the baby can transition to a sleep sack that allows a little bit more movement. In the bonus section, I will talk about some products that I really like when you're transitioning out of a swaddle. So stay tuned for that. So my nighttime routine would be, I would get them ready for bed. Make sure you have a clean diaper on. I really like easy diaper checking pajamas. So I actually created my own. That is my company, Caboosey. And you can see here in the picture that I created a pajama that was easy to check their diaper without undressing them and making them cold. We will talk more about that in the bonus section also. Usually around 7 p.m. is when I would start putting them to bed. Sometimes this left them hardly any time with their father if he worked late that night, but it is what it is, and they needed to go to bed. I needed a little alone time. I would end up going to bed then around 8:30, 8 or 9, depending on how exhausted I was from the day. I swaddled them. I love a swaddle with Velcro. That was my favorite. I could get it nice and secure. I was just not the best at using my swaddle blankets, getting them getting them so my baby couldn't break out of them. So I really liked the Velcro ones. My hospital actually gave me a swaddle, a fleece one for the babies that were born in November, and then my August baby, they gave me a nice light cotton one. But those types of swaddles are available everywhere. And again, I'll talk more about that in the bonus section. I nursed all my babies, and so I usually actually had them in their pajamas, clean diaper, swaddled up, and then I would nurse them then while they were all swaddled up. And kind of my filler up method before they went to bed, making sure they were nice and full so that they wouldn't be waking up just within a couple hours to want to sleep. Usually that part of the night they would get a nice long stretch of sleep, and then they would wake up around 10 or 11, and I could feed them one more time, and then they would sleep till morning. This wasn't always the case, but usually. And then I would put them in their bassinet to fall asleep on their own. And this, again, is the key. I wouldn't, yes, you snuggle and hold them, but I wouldn't rock them until they were asleep. I would snuggle and hold them and then lay them down drowsy so that they can fall asleep on their own. So where should a baby sleep? Right now we have so many options out there. Everyone has a crib right away in the beginning, but then you have your bassinets, you have DACA tots now, you have Snuggle Me Organics. This baby in the picture, she is actually laying in a Snuggle Me Organic. She is a little old possibly for it, but this is mostly for the picture, right? I like the Snuggle Me Organic sleeping pillow over the DACA tot. The DACA tot reminds me more of just like a pet bed, kind of like a blow up little bed, where the Snuggle Me Organic, I think, is made more to really hug the baby and make them kind of feel more secure and like they're being held. So out of those two, if you're going to choose, I think the Snuggle Me Organic is worth the price. All of my babies slept in a small bassinet in my room for the first couple months while they are waking up every 3 hours to eat. Again, the sleep training isn't about getting your baby to sleep from the time you put them down to the time you wake up in the morning. That is, newborns have to eat every couple hours, every 3 hours or so. So it is more about getting them to do those 3-hour chunks, sleeping really well, eating, going right back to sleep, not being awake in the middle of the night and playing, and not taking 3 hours to get them to try and go to sleep at night. And then eventually, as they get to be a couple months, they will start sleeping through the night if you train them right. My babies all transitioned to a crib once they were a little older and more mobile, where the bassinet wasn't going to be safe anymore. So now what? Your baby's asleep. What do you do? Well, maybe go watch a little Netflix and drink some tea. Or go to sleep yourself, right? If you're looking at your goals, you maybe need to head to sleep yourself to get the hours of sleep that you need. But don't wake your baby. Don't wake a sleeping baby. Let them sleep. They will wake up when it is time for them to eat and they were hungry. Go to bed yourself if you can. This was something, again, that I really do stress. If you have other kids, it can make it hard because sometimes you need to use that time in the evening to spend with them. But especially those first 2 months or so when your body is still healing and your hormones are adjusting, make sure you are getting enough sleep so that you're just not a disaster. So wait until you hear your baby stirring before feeding them. My babies never got to a hysterical crying. I would just hear them starting to wake up. I would look at the clock. If it had been 3 hours, I would get them from their bassinet, feed them in my bed with me. I really liked laying down and nursing. That was my favorite position. And then either we both fell asleep, and when I'd wake up, I'd put them in their bassinet, or I would stay awake, I'd let them eat, and then I'd slide them back into their bed. Those early months, you should keep them close by instead of getting up, having to walk all the way to their room, get them out. I preferred laying down and feeding versus getting up and sitting in a chair and using all these props. That was really helpful. Another tip here that I'm really going to stress is both parents should be able to put the baby to bed successfully. If the routine all revolves around one parent, then that other parent never gets to have an evening away or get to do anything without the one left home feeling like it's a disaster. So trade off who puts the baby to bed so that the baby is used to both parents being put to bed and just used to the same routine. So this is helpful if grandma and grandpa are babysitting, or you go out on a date and you have a sitter. You can, tell them this is their schedule. Do this, 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 and baby should be able to fall asleep and go to bed without it being a traumatic experience for all. So the co-sleeping dilemma. Once babies are mobile, it usually turns into bad sleeping for all. Again, if you are choosing to co-sleep, I am not judging you. That is every person's choice. I do believe once you have more than one child, that doesn't work because where do you all fit? And how did you have that other child? If you know what I mean, if you're never alone in bed. But the biggest thing is they're just learning bad sleep habits by needing mom or dad there. You are setting them up to be a successful adult, basically, by teaching them in the beginning how to sleep. Okay, so stop beating yourself up about feeling like you're a bad mom by teaching them this. You are not. You are setting them up for success. A husband and a wife need alone time without a baby in between. This is good for your relationship. A lot of times once baby comes, it's hard to have not everything revolve around them because they're very needy. But you do need to prioritize your relationship with your spouse. That is again, here we go. The best gift a child can have is a mother who loves and prioritizes their dad. So this gives them comfort and it gives them the protection that they need and love. So do not feel bad about that. All right, that is it for today, ladies, or papas, depending on who's listening to this. So today's assignment is grab that notebook that you already had. I want you to write down a schedule that's going to work for you and your babe. Brainstorm how you and your partner can help each other so it's not dependent on one person. Maybe you trade off nights, who does it. It just depends on what your schedule is. We all have different schedules. So think of how you can support each other in this. And just as always, just look back at what you wrote for your goals and keep thinking about how you can accomplish this. And pat yourself on your back if you are doing better this week and if you are getting some 7 hours of sleep, mama. If you are taking this course in the act of desperation, I do pray it paves a way for you and your family to get more sleep. Until next time, mama.